Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is centering. How do we find our way back to balance and centeredness when we get caught up in circumstance and the tides of ever-changing emotion? So that's what we get to talk about today. But before we get started, let's take a minute to get present and let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen just flooding your lungs and flowing into your bloodstream and nourishing all your cells and all your organs. And as you exhale, roll your shoulders and relax and allow yourselves to just ease into wherever you're sitting and take another deep breath in through your nose. Hold it, and this time imagine sparkling white light coursing into every molecule and electron in your body and your being and connecting you with the universe beyond you so that you're part of this grander experience. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, any stress. And now let's just gently press our palms together, softly, softly rub your fingers against your palms and feel the deliciousness of that sensation and allow yourselves to become present right here, right now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hi, Dido. So glad to have you here this morning. And thank you. And thank you to everybody who's here joining us. Today, we're talking about centering. And there's so many opportunities to lose our center, and to the thing about that is that we never really lose it. We just sort of maybe lose track of it. And what we're going to talk about is how to reclaim that sense of centeredness and balance. Hello, Olivia. How awesome to have you here. Thanks for being here. Welcome. So, in talking about centeredness, I think first we get to look at what takes us out of being centered, or how we kind of lose our footing. And I think it's easy to get caught up in the momentum of our interactions with people and situations, even internally, to get caught up in our own momentum of thought and emotion. I'm just thinking of, for instance, watching the news, and how if we watch the news, we can get caught up in the story around what's happening and have an emotional reaction to it, and then that spirals into more internal conversation, and it just gains this momentum, and there we are going right down a rabbit hole. And so the key, and this is kind of the irony about it, I guess, but the key for coming back to center is recognizing first that we're not. And so it's a matter of cultivating this meta awareness, so to speak, or this perspective on ourselves and our way of being in a particular moment, such that we then can come back to a place of choice. Because when we're in it, typically we're in it and we don't have the perspective. So I guess that's the trick. That's the trick, is to make certain practices habitual so that we keep remembering to come back to ourselves, to come back to our center, to come back to that place of balance. And so one such practice is breathing. To as we remember to breathe more deeply into our belly, and by nature, that breath brings us to slow ourselves, to slow reactivity, to slow our passions. So this is not only a way to bring ourselves to that meta awareness of ourselves, but also when we do get caught up and we do recognize that we were running away with the momentum of this fast moving train of emotion or thought, that we can bring ourselves back to a place of centeredness just with something as simple as the breath. And the trick is, and I know most of you or many of you know this, but the trick is that when we're breathing, when we're in a state of excitement and stress even, we tend to breathe from the top of our lungs. We tend to breathe higher up in our chest and into our shoulders, so that when we breathe, we're going, and what's happening is it's not filling our lungs fully. So if you instead imagine, if you allow yourself to imagine that you're breathing into your belly, and as you inhale, expand your belly outward. So you could even put your hands on your belly, and as you inhale, push your hands out by expanding your belly. And then exhale, you allow your hands to collapse your belly or push your belly in. Then you'll notice that it's a whole different experience of breath, and it allows us to slow ourselves down and become more present to our physicalness. And that's another way to bring ourselves into center, is to notice what's happening. Like maybe if you're in a state of upset, your heart is fluttering and you're breathing shallowly. And by putting your attention on your heart rate, for instance, we can actually use the breath to slow that and to ease that. And if we notice that we are holding a lot of tension in our shoulders and our neck, we can also bring awareness to those places of tension or compression and allow ourselves to breathe into those spaces and release those spaces. And then that brings us back to a place of greater presence and awareness. And I find it really interesting to watch myself periodically get caught up in the momentum of these moments, and in moments of conflict or moments of of discord. And if we have the presence, like if we practice this presence more consistently, uh, potentially we can be remembering in those moments to breathe. In those moments, we can sort of detach ourselves from those moments and then allow ourselves to be present again from another dimension of listening and presence. So this is, it's an interesting phenomenon, how our level of listening has a very profound impact on our physiology. So when we are defending, what is the dynamic that underlies defending an idea? It's often identification with that idea, like believing in some level that that idea is who I am. And when identifying with that idea, then a disagreement with that idea becomes a threat to my identity, right? So if I'm if I am the idea versus I have an idea, then what's happening is, if there is disagreement with that idea, it's a personal affront, it's a personal attack. And my listening is one of defense, right? If somebody disagrees with an idea that I'm identified with. On another level, I can have an idea, and if we disagree with ideas, then we can talk about the merits of either idea, and we can have a little bit more of a conversation where there's room to explore the um, the merits, right? If we're looking at the idea as a thing and engaging in the merits. In other words, there we're having a discussion, but it's not necessarily a connection. Okay, then another level of hello, Danette. Welcome, welcome. So glad to have you here. And welcome to everybody else. We're talking about centering and different levels of listening, and how different levels of listening um, preclude our ability to find our center and also find connection with another. Um, and part of this conversation was talking about how we can get swept up in the momentum of a moment, and there's so many of those moments these days, right? With the contentious atmosphere, polarization in our social spheres around politics and so many other things. So the third level of listening is really more a place where we're seeking connection, the where the premise is not to justify that I'm right and you're wrong, or I know better, or something like that, but it's a cooperative communication where we have some empathy for one another as human beings, and some curiosity to have a deeper understanding of what the idea the ideas are, and how could we have come to those ideas and reach a deeper understanding. I don't know if it was last week or before that, but um, someone who was present for these talks in the morning was saying that she has learned to listen beyond the problem, to learn to listen to the other person, to find out what is going on under the surface, because whatever the presenting problem is, it's typically not the real issue. That as we explore communication and connection with one another, that we get to discover the truth of the dynamic, or what is the true issue that is motivating a certain communication. And that kind of brings us to the next level of awareness, where when we are able to connect through that empathic or empathetic place, where we're committed to connecting as human beings, the next place that arises is a generative place, a place where there are new possibilities that emerge in the conversation and the connection. And so when we're talking about centering, what we're talking about is presencing ourselves to the call of a given moment, and also presencing ourselves to our hearts and our wholeness, rather than, like, the way that I'm imagining some of these communications and being off centers, a fluctuation of energy that is spiking or diving, and the coming back to center is a place of more presence, perhaps. I had a really interesting conversation yesterday with a client talking about intentions of being in a place of balance and harmony. And I want to discuss that too in the context of this notion of centering, because a place of balance, what is balance? So in one way that we can think of balance is actually static, it's still, right? And when we talk about being centered, we often talk about finding that internal place of stillness. The thing is that stillness can be stagnant, right? Perhaps. And so maybe what balance is a dynamic experience of moving out of balance and correcting, moving out of balance and correcting, or moving higher or lower, or having a dynamic where this sense of balance is a constant adjustment, a constant dynamic motion. And it seems to me that that's the place from whence life emerges, is in a dynamic, when there is motion, when there is activity. And so as I'm thinking about the stillness, I'm also recognizing that there is a place within this stillness that sort of transcends dimensions, so that there is an interdimensional dynamic, perhaps, where it opens up new worlds. And that's a movement in and of itself. So within the stillness, there's a deeper activity or a deeper dimensional dynamic, perhaps. What I'm wondering what you guys are thinking about this whole idea of stillness and centering. I don't know that I wonder, in this space of stillness or centering, we imagine this experience of blissfulness. But when we think about creation, knowing that we are divine light crystallized in this physical form, or expressing through this physical form, why would we do that? We came here for experience, right? We came here, at least this is a hypothesis I play with, is that we came here to have experience, and experience in bliss. Bliss is, and as I imagine it anyway, is a place of constancy and no differentiation, right? It's constant. It's this sense of euphoric stillness, and without any contrast, without any dynamic, then it is it can't know itself, it can't experience itself. And so where we experience centering is in contrast to moments when we're not centered, right? Where we experience moments of passion is passion centered. Is it possible for passion to be centered? I think maybe what we look at here is degrees of fluctuation in emotion or reaction. I wonder if you get to experience euphoria in a constant state of being centered, or our emotions then kind of flatlined, and is that something that we desire? So I'm in this exploration right now. What's opening up for me is a greater appreciation for the fluctuations of emotion and experience and passion, and coming back to a place of center as a resting place, not as a place of constant being necessarily, but as a resting place. It's funny because I'm thinking now of folks who, when life is peaceful, literally go and generate drama because the peacefulness is boring, or is just too still, and being in that stillness is disrupting in its own way, or discomforting in its own way, which is really interesting. So I guess it's a matter of what kind of capacity we have for stillness, and what kind of capacity we have for these energetic fluctuations, and how much we need those that variation, those variations, or how much we crave them, or how much we create them. It's interesting to me because I think, hello, Lillian, welcome. So glad to have you here. We're talking about centering, and it's interesting because in the realm of spiritual pursuit, shall we say, or discipline. Thank you, Lillian. Thank you. In this realm of spiritual awareness and awakening, we talk about balance and mindfulness, and I remember years and years ago, I went to visit an intentional community. It was a community that was based on the teachings of Gurdjieff, and the people were pretty much in constant meditation, right? So they were in this state of evenness all the time, and there were no smiles, and there was no laughter in my experience of the time that I was there. And I found it really oppressive. And I am just now in this moment bringing to my awareness how much I delight in different emotions, even when they're not necessarily comfortable or pleasant emotions, but that being able to have the experience of different emotions, the variety of emotions. I tend to think that that's a big part of what we came here for. Like, this is the 10-ticket ride. So centering is a great practice and a great experience to have, and a great comfort to come back to. And being in that constant state of presence, I'm wondering, like the evenness of it, I'm wondering if that's really something to aspire to. I'm not so sure. So Lillian says, yes, it is a place to aspire to. I think that's what you're saying, Lillian. I tend to cherish the moments that I feel pure joy. I tend to sometimes even relish moments of melancholy. You know, there's a sweetness to a certain degree of sadness, you know, to be able to feel these different things. And I don't know that I want to erase those things, to feel all the passions and pleasures So Lillian says, yes, she wants to feel those things too. Okay, good. So I wasn't sure if I misunderstood what you were saying. I, I'm not the person who came here to meditate for my life in a cave, and I value the fact that the people that are doing that are probably elevating the consciousness of the planet. I think that I am hungry for the experiences that are available to us as physical beings, and centering and centeredness and mindfulness is one of those experiences, or is on the spectrum of experience. But I don't know that I would want any one experience all the time. And yeah, I'm wondering what's your take on this? Meditation's awesome, to be able to get into a meditative state, and that state of presence and that state of awareness. And there are so many other states also to experience. And I remember when I was in art school, I wanted to do everything. I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm here. It's like a playground with all these incredible toys to explore and play with, and I wanted to do it all and learn it all and enjoy it all. And my instructors didn't have that same idea. You know, their idea was that I should develop a body of work that was specialized. And I thought, wow, I'm never going to be in a place like this where I have so many, or I'm not likely to be in a place like this again with so many resources and opportunities to explore all these different things. And in a way, that's kind of what life is like, right? That we have so many things we can explore, and I want to drink in as much of it as I possibly can. Lillian asks if I paint, and I'm so glad you asked that, Lillian. I always imagined myself as a painter. Actually, I had been a glass blower, and I also did bronze sculpture when I was in college, as well as photography. But I did always imagine myself as a painter in some way, shape, or form. And recently, I just started playing with encaustic painting. And this is something that I was really interested in for a long time. It's painting with wax. And it enables texture and three-dimensionality, and it kind of blends a lot of the things that I have already done, because with glass is molten, it's using heat, and encaustic uses a torch or a hot gun to melt the wax to different degrees. Um, and bronze sculpture also used wax to, I would make models in wax and then burn them out and fill it with the bronze. So these are things that are familiar to me. And so Lillian says, yes, in this world, there's so much to choose from, and I can't decide what to do. I got you. You know what? You're not alone. So that's kind of the dilemma. You know, there's so much to do that it's hard to decide what you want to do. And I have fought over the years, or wrestled with the notion of being a dilettante. So Lillian says, yes, wow, you tried a lot. And I still do try a lot of different things, because I'm curious. I'm so curious. And so some of these things, you know, like talking about dilettante, the idea is jack of all trades, master of none. However, there is a new model emerging where having an experience in lots and lots of different fields informs your perspective in a broader way. So it's not necessary to master all these different things, but having an awareness of all the different things then allows you to generate original thought, original ideas, because you have your hands in so many different things. You have so many different sources of reference that you can then synthesize in a way that is generative and creating something authentically new or out of the box, because you have all these different reference points. And so, Lillian, it sounds like you're an artist too. So you have all different ideas and interests in art. Well, I'm just not, these are not works of art. These are experiments, right? But these are my first two encaustic paintings, and I don't know how well they'll show here. But this, what's cool about this is there's all kinds of texture and color, and it was just really fun because you get to build it up. Lillian says that she's a multi-artist. I love that. I love multi-artists as opposed even to multimedia. But the thing that I like about encaustic is that it is multimedia. Like this has paper towels in it, and it has just buildup of all different colors. And it's just fun to be able to experiment and play. And I want to do it all too. I want to try all these different things and put it all together, and it's just really fun. So I think coming back to centering, a lot of us experience this flow, this experience of centered attention or focused attention when we're doing things that are creative. And it could even be gardening, for instance. Yeah, it is funny that you asked if I painted, Lillian. I just started this like a week or two, a week ago, maybe a week and a half ago. So I'm having fun with it. And I encourage you guys to just, like, our lives are our art, you know, whatever you decide to do with your life, the way that you create your life and express it is your art. And to bring this back to centering and this creative urge, or when we're creating or gardening or doing something that we love, we can get into a state of flow, a state of centeredness. And from that state of flow and centeredness, there's sort of a transcendence that is not dissimilar from the kind of transcendence that's available to us when we get into deep meditation. So I love that we can come back to center. I don't know that I want to be there every moment of every day of my entire life, but coming back to that place is a gift, you know, whether it be through meditation or simply breathing or doing art or other creative things. And Lillian says, we feel like this because we have so much inside of us that we want to get outside of us to create. Well, you know, this is awesome. It's a beautiful point, because in doing creative things in the world, whether it's writing or artwork or gardening or cooking, can be tremendously creative. I find it that way. Like, just things that we are expressing ourselves through and with and focused attention. What we enable ourselves to do is to connect our interior to the outside world. You know, we get to also make manifest some of what is inside. So like you said, Lillian, to bring the inside out, that's what a lot of this creativity is. And it in bringing the inside out, we also get to experience more deeply our inner selves, and that's what this whole centering thing is all about. And Lillian says, sometimes I wish I just had one idea. There's too much in my head. It's spinning day and night. Well, centering is a good thing then, Lillian. Maybe just putting the attention on the breath and finding the thing that emerges as a desire or as your prioritized expression. And that for me has been the value, the greatest value of the practice of presencing and sensing into my center, because then I can connect more deeply with what is wanting to emerge. Instead of saying, I'm going to go make a great painting. First of all, I don't know if I'm capable of that. Second of all, that's an external thing, and then I get to judge it if the painting meets those criteria, blah blah blah. Instead of creating an outward goal, I can move from inner inspiration. And the centering practice, whatever that practice might be for you, allows us to become more present to what it is inside that is moving from inspiration. And that's the guidance, if there is any guidance, is to connect with that deep sense, that deep center, to move from inspiration and to revisit that, to find the inspiration rather than being driven by the external imposition or goal, because that is a narrowing of our capacity. So the centering allows us to connect with that expansiveness that we are, and to bring ourselves into connection with our internal inspiration. And Lillian says, when I create, I feel like cleansing inside. So you are using that as a place of centering. It's a beautiful thing. And so I hope that you guys found this entertaining and stimulating. I did, actually, to recognize how deeply I truly appreciate the variety of emotions and how much I appreciate not always being in my center, so that I can come back to that place and really benefit from it and recognize the contrast and appreciate that. And so Lillian says, I've never been taught in any way to do it comes from inside, and I follow just that. That way it's mine, if you know what I mean. I do know what you mean. And it we all have different ways of expressing our creativity and moving on our inspiration. It was great to see you, Lillian, and very cool to share about art too. Unexpected, but it does connect with this whole idea of centering and expression and passion and the range of our emotions and our experience, and how all of it connects. Lillian, thank you. She says, please share more of your painting here. Well, we'll see what I come up with. Anyway, I have to say thank you so much for engaging today. And as always, it's such a treat and honor to be with you guys. And I just have so much love and appreciation for you. So I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live on the Enlightened World Facebook page every weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And I encourage you to check out the other wonderful programming on Enlightened World Network. And Danette, thank you. And that's sweet. Maybe I will share my art or my experiments. I prefer to call them experiments at this point. Anyway, so much love to you guys. Thanks so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again here really soon.